I paid for our family dinner, but they mocked me for being boring. So I took the check, left a note, and walked out. Their angry texts were gold. So here's the thing. I've been the family ATM for way too long, and honestly, I didn't even realize it until that night at Olive Garden when everything just clicked. Picture this. Me, 30 years old, working as a librarian, which apparently makes me the most boring human on the planet, according to my relatives. But hey, boring pays the bills, right? I'd invited everyone out for dinner because, family time and all that wholesome stuff. Mom, Dad, my cousin Noah, Aunt Sarah, Uncle Mike, the whole crew. Figured we'd hit up Olive Garden because who doesn't love unlimited breadsticks, and I was feeling generous enough to cover everyone's tab. Big mistake, but we'll get to that. The moment we sat down, it was like watching a Noah Appreciation Society meeting. Dude had just gotten back from some backpacking trip through Europe, funded by who knows what since he's been unemployed for like 6 months, and everyone was hanging on his every word like he'd just discovered a new continent. "Oh, Noah, tell us about Paris again," Mom gushed, practically bouncing in her seat. "And that story about the hostel in Barcelona, hilarious," Dad chimed in, slapping the table. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there twirling my fettuccine, feeling like a ghost at my own dinner party. When the conversation finally turned to me, it was basically to roast my life choices. Update. Hey everyone, thanks for following along with this mess. Just wanted to give you a heads up. Things are about to get spicy. My family really showed their true colors this night. And honestly, I'm still processing how brutal they were. The question that's been eating at me, how long do you let family treat you like garbage before you finally snap? "So what's new with you?" Aunt Sarah asked, but her tone already suggested she expected nothing interesting. "Well, I just helped organize this amazing literacy program for kids at the library, and we're seeing incredible results." "That's nice, dear," Mom interrupted, then immediately turned back to Noah. "Noah, show us those pictures from the Louvre." "Uncle." Mike chuckled and said, "At least someone in the family knows how to live a little. No offense, but cataloging books isn't exactly thrilling." The whole table erupted in laughter. Not friendly, inclusive laughter, the kind that makes you feel about 2 inches tall. Noah, being the stand-up guy he is, just grinned and shrugged, like it was all good fun. That's when the memories started flooding back. All those times Noah needed bail money. Who did they call? Me. When he crashed Dad's old Chevy and needed help with repairs? Yours truly. Family vacations where somehow I always ended up covering the extra costs because you're so responsible with money. Birthday parties, Christmas gifts, emergency grocery runs when Mom and Dad were tight on cash. Apparently being the stable one meant being the family credit card. But Noah got praised for his free spirit and adventurous soul. Never mind that his adventures were funded by everyone else's hard work. Never mind that while I was building a career and actually contributing to society, he was bumming around, hostels, and calling it finding himself. The waiter came by to check on us, and I watched as Noah ordered another craft beer, his third one, while casually mentioning how he might backpack through Asia next. Everyone oohed and awed like he was planning to cure cancer or something. "Must be nice to have such flexibility," I said, trying to keep the edge out of my voice. "Well, some of us aren't tied down to dusty old books," Noah replied with that infuriating smirk of his. More laughter from the peanut gallery. That's when it hit me like a freight train. I wasn't family to these people. I was a convenience. A walking, talking bank account with legs. They kept me around because someone had to be the responsible one. Someone had to pick up the check. Someone had to bail everyone out when their adventurous choices caught up with them. But the respect? The genuine interest in my life? The acknowledgement that maybe, just maybe, I had something valuable to offer beyond my debit card? Nowhere to be found. I excused myself to the restroom, needing a minute to think. Staring at myself in that harsh fluorescent lighting, I realized I had 2 choices: keep being the family doormat or actually do something about it. When I came back to the table, Noah was in the middle of another story about some festival in Prague, and everyone was eating it up like he was Anthony Bourdain or something. The waiter had already brought the check and set it right in front of me, because of course he did. That's just how these dinners always went. I picked up that little black folder and really looked at it. $143 for a family dinner where I'd been treated like the boring cousin who exists solely to fund everyone else's good time. Update. Okay, folks, this is where things get real. I'm about to make a decision that's going to change everything with my family. Some of you might think I'm being petty, but honestly, I'm tired of being treated like an ATM with feelings. Here's the big question. When someone disrespects you while you're literally paying for their meal, what's the appropriate response? You know what they say about the straw that broke the camel's back? Mine came when Noah raised his beer and said, "Here's to family, even the boring ones who keep us grounded." Everyone laughed and toasted while I sat there feeling like I'd been slapped. That was it. Done. Finished. I grabbed a pen from my purse and wrote on a napkin. "Since my life is so boring, maybe you all should pay for your own excitement. Good. Luck with the check." I folded it up, left it right there on the table, and grabbed the check. Then I stood up, grabbed my jacket, and headed for the door. "Where are you going?" Mom called after me. "Home to my boring life," I called back without turning around. The best part? I could hear Noah starting another story as I walked away, completely oblivious to what had just happened. The waiter was probably going to have an interesting conversation with them in about 5 minutes. I drove home blasting some Taylor Swift, because apparently that's what boring librarians do, and felt lighter than I had in years. No joke, it was like someone had lifted a backpack full of rocks off my shoulders. I got home, made myself some tea, grabbed a good book, and settled in for the evening. Then I did something I'd never done before. I turned off my phone. Not silent mode, not do not disturb, completely off. Whatever explosion was happening in the family group chat could wait. For the first time in forever, I spent an evening doing exactly what I wanted without worrying about who needed what from me. It was amazing. The next morning, I turned my phone back on to find 17 missed calls and about 30 text messages. The highlight reel included, "Mom, how could you embarrass us like that? Call me immediately. Dad, that was completely inappropriate. We raised you better than this. Noah, really mature leaving us with a bill we couldn't cover. Had to call Uncle Jim for help. Aunt Sarah, I'm so disappointed in your behavior. Family comes first. The nerve of these people, right? They spent an entire evening treating me like garbage, making jokes at my expense, dismissing everything I care about, and somehow I'm the bad guy for not wanting to pay for the privilege." I took my time crafting my response to the family group chat. I've been thinking about last night and I've realized something important. I'm done being the family bank. Going forward, I'll be happy to spend time with family members who actually respect me and value what I bring to the table beyond my wallet. For everyone else, you're on your own financially. The responses came fast and furious. Lots of guilt. Trips about family obligations and how I was being selfish. Noah actually had the audacity to say I was overreacting to some harmless teasing. Harmless teasing. Right. I didn't engage with the drama. Instead, I did something revolutionary. I started living my life for me. First thing I did was take all that money I'd normally spend on family emergencies and random dinners and treat myself to something I'd wanted for ages. Tickets to a literary festival in Chicago. 3 days of panels with my favorite authors, workshops on creative writing, and networking with people who actually appreciate books and learning. Then I signed up for that creative writing course I'd been eyeing at the community college. Always. Wanted to try writing fiction, but somehow there was never time or money because someone always needed something. The family dinner invitations stopped coming pretty quickly once word got out that I wasn't footing the bill anymore. Funny how that works, isn't it? Suddenly nobody was interested in getting together when they actually had to pay their own way. But here's the really interesting part. Without me bankrolling everything, the family dynamic started shifting. Turns out Noah isn't quite as charming. When people realize he expects them to pay for his lifestyle. Who would have thought? Update. All right, everyone, final update on this wild ride. The aftermath of my dinner walkout has been absolutely wild, and I've got to share how everything played out. My family's reaction to losing their personal ATM was, well, let's just say it was educational. The big question now, was it worth blowing up my relationship with my family to finally get some respect? Mom called me crying about 2 weeks later. Apparently they'd planned another family dinner, and when it came time to pay, everyone just kind of looked around waiting for someone else to step up. Noah suggested they should call me, and Dad apparently said, absolutely not, we're not crawling back to her. So they all had to dig into their own pockets for once. Revolutionary concept, I know. The crying call was Mom trying to guilt me into coming back to how things used to be. She kept saying things like, families should stick together, and money shouldn't come between us. I told her she was absolutely right. Money shouldn't come between family. That's exactly why I wasn't going to let them use me as their personal bank anymore. But you have a good job and you're single, she said. You have more disposable income. And I'm disposing of it on myself from now on, I replied. The literary festival was incredible, by the way. I met this amazing group of writers who actually wanted to hear about my job because they were fascinated by how libraries work and what goes into collection development. Imagine that. People who thought my career was interesting instead of a joke. I also met someone pretty special there. Another librarian, actually, from a university about an hour away. We've been seeing each other for a few months now, and he thinks my job is fascinating. He loves hearing about the programs I develop and the impact they have on the community. Wild concept, right? Noah's travel plans to Asia fell through when he couldn't find anyone willing to invest in his journey. Last I heard, he was working at a coffee shop and complaining about how expensive everything is when you have to pay for it yourself. About 3 months after the dinner incident, Dad finally called. Not to apologize exactly, but to say they missed having me around, and maybe they could work something out about family dinners. I told him I'd be happy to join family dinners where everyone pays for themselves and treats each other with respect. No more jokes about my boring life, no more dismissing my interests, and definitely no more expecting me to cover everyone's expenses just because I make responsible choices. He hemmed and hawed for a while before finally agreeing that maybe they'd been taking me for granted. Maybe. We've had a couple of family dinners since then. Everyone pays their own way now, which is apparently a shocking concept, and the dynamic is completely different. People actually ask about my work, my writing class, my relationship. Noah still tries to be the center of attention, but without the financial safety net I provided, his stories about living off other people's generosity have lost their charm. The best part is how much I love my life now. I'm taking that creative writing class and actually working on a novel. I've got money saved up for a trip to Scotland next year to visit some literary sites I've always wanted to see. My relationship is amazing, and I'm surrounded by people who actually value what I bring to their lives beyond my bank account. Sometimes people ask if I regret blowing up that family dinner, and honestly, best decision I ever made. It taught my family that I'm a person deserving of respect, not just a convenient source of funding. It taught me that I don't have to accept being treated poorly just because we share DNA. And it taught Noah that adventurous, free spirit doesn't entitle you to live off everyone else's hard work. The family relationships that survived this whole ordeal are stronger now because they're based on actual mutual respect instead of financial convenience. The ones that didn't survive? Well, they weren't really relationships anyway. They were transactions. I'm still a librarian, still love books, still have what some people might call a quiet life. But it's my life, and I'm living it on my terms now. And that, my friends, is anything but boring.